So, Ryan, what did you think of The Witcher Season 3? That's a good Geralt of Rivia there. Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Close Up. I'm your co-host, Joe.
And I'm Ryan.
As you gathered from that intro, we are talking about The Witcher Season 3. Full spoilers ahead for the show. So, zooming into our medium shot now. What's your history with the Witcher franchise, and how hyped were you coming into Season 3?
I remember when the third game specifically first came out, and honestly just seeing it everywhere, all over the internet, all over, your local video game stores. It was basically being plastered every which way, which rightfully so. It's an amazing game. I'm just playing through it right now, but I was never, I don't know, for some reason I just never really got into it around that time, because it's the type of game I would have loved when I was younger too. I mean, it came out 8 years ago, but maybe I was enthralled with another game. I don't even remember. I can't even come up with a good excuse. So when the show adaptation was announced, I thought, oh, this might be a good jumping in point. And then I didn't realize, I found out that it took place during a different time than the games. But I thought, hey, Henry Cavill's going to be in it, and I loved him as Superman. He'll definitely do a great job as Geralt, from what I can tell from my limited knowledge, because he always goes 110% into projects he loves, especially the Witcher franchise, which he's a avid fan of the books and the video games. Excuse me. So I remember watching the first season when it first came out, and I was mixed on it, and then after a few rewatches, I started to like it. And then season 2 I really loved, just because they did things in chronological order this time. And then this season happened. So how about you, Joe?
As usual, you pretty well summed up my thoughts. I hadn't heard of The Witcher until around the time Witcher 3 came out. Didn't really think much of it, because as recurring listeners know, I'm about 10 years behind on all games anyway. Okay, not 10 years, but I'm pretty bad with games. So I knew there was no realistic chance I was going to get to play Witcher 3. I heard it was good, brushed it aside. Then the Netflix show came out. Friends of mine who played The Witcher 3 were all excited about it, and I figured, okay, sure, this is maybe a good jumping off point for me as well. A lot of season 1 left me confused because of how they told it out of chronological order. I don't think I even realized till way too late, an embarrassingly long time into it, that it was actually 3 separate timelines. And that then it started making some kind of sense, but even then, not really. But I did enjoy it. And, okay, so besides my friends, the other reason I did watch it was because of Henry Cavill. And I'm sure we'll talk about the Henry Cavill of it all very soon. But I'm a huge fan of his, and he was a major draw for me coming into this show. Season 1, okay. Season 2, really enjoyed it, actually. It started actually picking it up. But The Witcher is one of those shows that I don't really think about when it's not on. It's one of those ones where, yeah, I enjoy it while I'm watching, and then in that year-long gap between it, I haven't really thought about season 2 since. Just like I didn't think about season 1 after that finished. It's just kind of the show that I like watching when it's on, and yeah, but it doesn't really stick with me. So I kind of expected season 3 to be the same way. And in many ways it was, but in many ways I still liked it. So let's get into our close-up and get into detail on this. I think it would be good to address the elephant in the room first and talk about the departure of Henry Cavill, which, for my money, really took the wind out of the sails of this season. And I think it's the reason definitely a lot of the fan base wasn't as excited going into this year, because I don't know why they felt the need to announce Henry Cavill was going to be departing this show before this season came out, because I feel like whatever viewership decline they got for this year was in large part due to that.
I read somewhere it was 23%.
Yeah, which I'm sure
decline,
over the life of a show, that tends to happen. It's season 3, and maybe people didn't love season 2. And okay, fine, a lot of the fan base maybe would just naturally decline. But I think this was an artificial decline brought specifically on by the fact that your star, who is a huge draw of the show, was said to not be returning after this. So people say, what's the point? He's my main reason for investment. Why am I even going to bother with season 3 if my favorite part of the show isn't continuing past? I may as well just cut ties here.
Well, if I recall, it wasn't the studio that released the news. It was Henry himself who did it first.
But he would have had...
To me, that shows like a huge red flag on what was to come up during the season. Not that anything terrible happened during the season, but it was just him basically saying, hey, this production and the people behind it is not up to snuff of what I agreed to. And take it with a grain of salt, people, but he's probably the leading expert on the Witcher stuff, since he is an avid fan of it and just an actual expert. He has been known to politely, of course, correct people on set about what happens here and there. And yes, he would have had to had permission from the studio to release that information.
Yeah.
But for them to just allow it to happen before the season even comes out is really strange.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't understand why the marketing team thought this was okay. Or maybe they were really cocky and thought, oh, by this point, people will have... anyone who jumped on for Henry Cavill is just staying for the show, so maybe they won't mind if we announce the recast early, which it's Liam Hemsworth, and they clearly had that in mind already. Things had been going on behind the scenes. The fact that Cavill announced his departure so far in advance of the show, and they already announced the recast before season 3, his departure had been in the works for a while. So I guess they figured, why drag it out even more? I don't know. Weird decision all around. But I'd also like to say, and I think we've talked about this on the show before, but Henry Cavill got screwed in this deal because he signed on for The Witcher as a huge fan of it. And I believe he said at the time the show started that he would be willing to see it through to the end as long as the quality was there and they paid respect to the source material. He was a big fan of the show, really wanted to see it succeed. And I know a lot of fans of the Witcher books haven't been happy with this series for how it depicted the stories. They felt it took too many liberties with the material. They also assumed Henry Cavill was upset just like they were. And people even think that he kind of hinted towards that in interviews, tried to warn people, it's not really a faithful adaptation, but he was a professional about it, stuck through it. But a lot of people also theorize his dissatisfaction with the way the showrunners handled this show was what led him to take Superman back when DC offered it to him for Black Adam. Oh, great. I get to be in a bigger franchise for Warner Bros., get to be Superman, get to be the lead of an even longer lasting brand. More faces will see me. It's the role that made my name. I'm a fan of that too. Fantastic. Let's be Superman again. And then he got fired from that too. So he quit The Witcher to be Superman, got fired from Superman, totally got left in the lurch here. And he bounced back with an announcement that he's going to be doing an adaptation of Warhammer for OK. I don't know anything about that franchise personally, but I wish him the best of luck. I'm a huge Cavill fan. I will watch that when it comes out because I know he's going to pour every ounce of his passion into it, just like he's done for Superman and The Witcher. The problem with Henry Cavill is that he loves the material more than the material loves him. He's failed by the writers every time he signs on for something he thinks he's going to love. And I just feel so
Mm-hmm.
bad for the guy because I know how much he cares. And I'm just sick and tired of seeing him get screwed over. So,
I mean, yeah, it's definitely sad with that. And there's always rumors about the showrunners not really caring about the source material. There is that, I don't know his name, sadly, I should have probably looked into it more, but one of the main head writers for season 1 left afterwards because his claim was because the showrunners actually scoffed at the source material, and that he said, like, quote, people won't care. Like, they don't care that much about these books or something like that. Just something just very dismissive about it, which, take it with a grain of salt. It's a disgruntled employee talking about their ex-bosses who they don't like. But, I would tend to believe that that disgruntled employee. Just because, they're the ones really doing all the work. Normally, in Hollywood, when there's not strikes going on, producers like to come in and change things in a script or on set because, hey, they're paying the big bucks for it, right? They're paying for everything. Except what producers fail to understand is that they're just there to provide the money, not there to provide the actual fucking creative element towards it. You hire these people to do the creative element, let them do their job. That's why you have so many things happening with, people wanted the Snyder cut, people want the David Ayers cut. The director of Fan 4 Stick was very upset with the studio because it was heavily edited down. Yeah, and he said his version was one of the best movies he's ever worked on. Do I believe him? No. But that's what a big fear of mine and a lot of I would say a lot of my friends who are in the industry is a lot of studio interference when trying to create something that you are passionate about.
Yeah. So I have a quote here from Lauren Hisrich, who's the showrunner for The Witcher, and in response to the accusations that the writer's room openly mocked the material, she says, I never mocked the books. The books are my entire livelihood. I have a great relationship with Mr. Sapkowski, the writer of The Witcher, and the writer's rooms are sacred and safe, and more than anything, supportive spaces. Don't believe everything you read. Which you can take what she's saying at face value, but also for fans who have read the Witcher books, the show does take a lot of liberties with it. So she's saying one thing, the fans are seeing her work speak very differently. She's clearly putting her own spin on things. I haven't read the books myself. I know nothing about them. I am no kind of authority on The Witcher, so I just have to take the show for what I'm seeing. And to be frank, I do like what I'm seeing a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. I'm watching it as a critic of The Witcher Season 3 Netflix show. I have no biases towards The Witcher. I haven't played the games. I haven't read the books. The show is all I've got going for it, so I just have to judge it for what I'm seeing here. So I can't critique it for its adherence to the source material. I don't know. I just know that a lot of people hate the show, maybe unfairly, because it deviates from the source material, sometimes pretty strongly. And, in most other cases, I'd agree. If I loved something that strongly and saw a poor adaptation of it, which, believe me, I have many, many times, that does tend to be a factor in my critique. So if you think I'm being too lax on it today as a fan of The Witcher, sorry. I don't know what to tell you other than my feelings about this show are just based on the show.
Right. Well, From what I know, like the first 2 Witcher books are mostly contrived as short stories, and Geralt is in a lot of those short stories, and then the rest of the series, it becomes more about Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri. But
yeah,
I didn't read the books either. I'm not the biggest book guy. I'm trying to get better at it. But yeah, it's, from what I've watched in season 1 and 2, in terms of what I was looking for, in terms of story and spectacle, I was met with, a decent project. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's phenomenal. There's definitely some glaring issues, but they did pretty decent.
You know what? We talked enough about behind the scenes drama right now. Let's get into the season itself.
Okay. It's meh.
Talk. Yeah. Okay. I thought it had a decent start with episode 1, where we see Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer on the run from Emir and Redania, and all the forces after them. They're just bouncing from town to town, staying in their own little family unit. Geralt and Yennefer are still at odds after Yennefer tried to sacrifice Ciri last season, but Ciri and Yennefer have a bond. Ciri's kind of the in-between of them both. And I love this burgeoning family dynamic that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to me, one of the biggest strengths of season 3 is, for whatever I thought of season 1 and 2, I did enjoy them, but I was routinely infuriated by the fact that Geralt, Ciri, Yennefer, and Jaskier were kept apart for seemingly no good reason. And my favorite part of the show was seeing these actors play off each other and their chemistry together, and then they were consistently ripped apart. So the fact that season 3 has our 4 main leads routinely interacting with each other in fresh environments and new parts of the story, it was very satisfying for me as someone who's been following the show from the beginning to finally get to see these relationships bear more fruit and pay off in ways I never expected. Just even later in the season, seeing like Ciri and Jaskier talking a lot more. I'm like, hey, these two barely interacted before. This is fantastic. So to finally see that family unit, Geralt's the father, Yennefer's the mother. She even acknowledges Ciri as her daughter multiple times. That all Yennefer ever wanted was a child, and now she's finally got the chance to be a mother. She's screwed up with Ciri in the past, but now's her time to finally live up to what she always wanted to be. And Ciri's also pulled Geralt out of his loner state and made him take stock of the world and see. I'm losing my train of thought. At the end of the show, he declares that he's no longer neutral, and neutrality has been a big thing for him the entire season. They make a pretty big point of that. Everyone wants him to join a side, and he constantly refuses. What do I have to do with all these political machinations of the continent? I'm just here to defend Ciri. And then Emir allegedly captures Ciri, and then, well, the neutrality's off now. He's against anybody who is against Ciri. He fights for her, no matter how many enemies he's got to make to do it. And Jaskier is always, Jaskier is being kind of used as a political ploy, as a pawn by Redania, by Radovid and Dijkstra and Philippa at the beginning. And I did like how he never betrayed Geralt. It nearly seemed like he was going to...
I was really scared.
Yeah, and I just like how the next time he sees Geralt, he's like, oh yeah, this is what they want me to do. Are you okay with that? And Geralt's like, no. And Jaskier's like, okay, then I'll back off. This was a potential avenue I was playing, and it didn't work. I like that. It subverted my expectations in a good way.
Yeah,
So,
that was definitely one of the kind of highlights for part 1, was not making Jaskier just kind of a
traitor.
cliche.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I really liked Jaskier this season. I liked when and I agree with you, when it's all 3 of them, 4 of them, I guess, the core 4, if you will.
Yeah.
But really when it's Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer together, it's off the charts. I think it's definitely the highlight of the show. I was off on the casting of, I wasn't off on the casting of Ciri. I was off on the writing of Ciri in season 1 because, and to be fair, she's supposed to be a bratty princess, but I think I've seen too many bratty children in media over the years.
Yeah.
But as the show went on, their chemistry really shined, and I think the casting of those 4 actors was some of the best that they've ever done.
Yes.
I bet they hired Henry Cavill, and then they did, tens of thousands of chemistry reads with different types of actors.
Yes.
And it just sucks that this season, to me, feels so much like the setup for the next one.
It's all set up, basically.
Usually, in terms of television, season 3 is not really a setup season. It's usually season 4. You get like the first 3 seasons of a show, and those get more and more epic. And then the 3rd season, something insane happens. And then you do setup for the next one. Or yes, they do something epic in this season, and we'll get to it. But then they add on an additional 2 epilogue episodes, which kind of just sucked the fun out of it. It just really sucked the overall quality out of the show for me. And then,
well, I'll tell you
we're
what,
just kind of left with going, okay, that's it.
I watched the Making of Witcher Season 3 documentary on Netflix after I finished Season 3, and I believe it was Lauren Hisrich who described why they laid the season out that way. So the big moment we're talking about in the middle was the Siege of Aretuza, when the whatever they're called, the Nilfgaardians.
Redanians?
When the Nilfgaardians were invading Aretuza. The reason they put that as about episode 6 and then had a couple other, in their mind, was it would be predictable to have this big blowout battle end the season and end on a cliffhanger. But they felt it would be a more interesting decision to have this big blowout battle and then have a couple episodes to delve into the repercussions of it. End the season on more of a low note, mind you, but get a couple episodes to see how it affected the characters after the fact. I think Tissaia and Yennefer were the main ones who fell out from that. But we also see a lot of, like Geralt got his back broken, has to heal up. Jaskier's kind of just looking for Geralt. Ciri gets trapped in the desert and potentially captured. Vilgefortz runs off to Emir. Tissaia and Yennefer, they go out, and the other witches, they go after those Ciri-looking girls in the castle. Tissaia commits suicide. Yennefer and the other mages have to form their new collective. We're setting up, those last couple episodes served to set up the new status quo in a way that I think probably, so now we can hit the ground running in season 4, which I think is a little bit boring now, maybe, but I think it's better if the show does end up going still. I have heard it's on indefinite hiatus, and it might not even come back for season 4 now. There are rumors swirling, but if it does, season 4 can just get going. So it was a smart decision. It'll be considered a smart decision in hindsight, I think, to do it the way they did it.
I hear what you're saying, but it wasn't smart to make it a 2-parter.
Well, the first episode, mind you, sucked. The one with Ciri in the desert, I hated that one.
No, part 2 started with the Aretuza fight. Yeah.
Well, okay. What I'm talking about the 2 after that, like Aretuza.
No,
fight.
I'm talking about The Witcher season 3 part 1 that came out in June, and then Witcher season 3 part 2 that came out in July. I
watched it all together. I don't really know about the part 1 or 2. I saw the first like half of part 1, and then I basically just watched the last half of the season. I didn't really pay attention to which episodes were in each block.
So part 1 was episodes 1 through 5, and then part 2 was episodes 6 through 8. And episode 5 is the cliffhanger of, it wasn't Stregobor that was doing all this to the young witches to make them look like Ciri. It was Vilgefortz. And then we wait a whole month for this epic battle. And episode 6, I actually really liked. It was really awesome.
It was the best one.
And then they just give you like two epilogue stuff. And
that's what I'm talking about.
The reason I'm so miffed about the way the season ended is specifically because Henry Cavill is leaving. He's gone. He's your main draw to most of the audience. He's the main draw to this show, whether you want to admit to it or not. And to have him kind of go out, not in a shitty way. I mean, it is in the books. He fights with Vilgefortz and he gets his ass kicked,
which is great.
But to me, that is the perfect opportunity to say, hey, his face got fucked up. We got to fix it.
Yep.
I wonder how we'll fix it. But they don't. And instead, we get him sort of having a Dark Knight Rises
I thought the same
healing
thing.
montage.
Dark Knight Rises. I specifically wrote Dark Knight Rises in my notes because that.
And then you get this annoying little archer who I don't know if she's a character in the books. I'm iffy on, criticizing actors, but I feel like this was more of a directing standpoint. But whenever she talks, it is criticism of Geralt. And she's like, man, you don't know what we've been into. He's like, oh, you be dead through this. Like, you don't know what the fuck this man's been through. Who the fuck are you? We don't know your story yet. But yeah, you ran away from people who tried to kill you and you hid in the forest for who knows how long. I'm going to assume over 10 years. And then when you see, I brought this up to you after the podcast we talked about, Geralt's last fight is basically at this medieval toll booth against the Nilfgaardians to go and find Ciri. Yep. And then she shows up, not to save him at the last minute, because he would have been fine anyway, but she shows up to join him, and immediately I'm like, no. First of all, you're taking away Henry Cavill, and now you're going to make me watch more of this annoying character? No. I know exactly how her character is going to play out as Season 4 happens. Yasker's going to tell a joke, and then she's going to be dismissive the entire time. I don't think she'll ever warm up, because that's just the way her character has been set up.
Right.
And you could have just ended it on this epic, what could happen? What's going to happen with Geralt? And it would have made sense if, say, there are, in the future, 8 seasons of this show, like they planned. It would be just way more fluid for people who don't know the drama years later. Because, say, if you went with Geralt's face gets messed up in Season 3, and then you jump to Season 4, and they're fixing his face, and then it's Liam Hemsworth. You're like, oh, that's weird. I wonder... It's a completely different actor, but it works in the story. Where here he's walking, it's like, I tell you, Ymir, I'm coming for him. It's like, okay, start Season 4, it's a completely different guy. What the fuck happened?
They said
Takes you right out of it.
They said it was going to be a seamless transition, quote unquote.
Bullshit.
I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm still curious to see how they handle it. In my ideal headcanon, they don't even acknowledge it. He's just a new guy now, and that's fine. We don't need a story reason for it. Anyone who read up the behind the scenes knows Henry Cavill left Liam Hemsworth's and don't acknowledge it. Just move past it. Otherwise, you're just wasting valuable screen time.
I'll tell you what's wasting valuable screen time. See her in a desert for 48 minutes.
Oh, that was awful. And I understand what they were going for with that. They wanted to, okay, fine. They gave us a little bit of Jaskier and Geralt at the beginning and the ending, just to see what's going on with them. A little bit of follow-up. Geralt's just healing up. Not much is happening with him. And they really want us. And they really want us to feel the isolation, the hopelessness, the pure drag of Ciri going through the desert, trying to survive, palling around with a unicorn, losing her mind potentially, hearing these visions from that lady Falca, having to eat lizards, get sick, find oases in the desert. It's just, doing it this way was meant for us to feel the slog Ciri's feeling. But the problem is it is a slog, and we have no respite from it. It's just over half an hour of Ciri wandering in the desert, and I've seen movies and shows where characters wander the desert before. It's not like it's not that original what they're doing with it. It's not like there's anything so crazy I've never seen before in this episode. It's just boring. And
Yeah.
and it would have been okay, once again, if you had anything else to break it up. Where it's just, okay, and now we're back to Ciri wandering the desert. What's she doing now? But it's just relentless. Which I understand is the point. But it also sucks. So I see what you were going for, but it didn't work.
Exactly. Again, it just fails to end on. It didn't have to be epic. I'm not saying it had to be epic, but it just failed to keep audiences engaged. I think I almost fell asleep 3 times watching that episode. And It really sucks because I think the Ciri actress did a pretty decent job showing
Freya
that she
Allen.
was struggling in the desert. Yes, Freya Allen, thank you.
Yeah.
I saw a meme where they compared her eating the lizards to the lizard in holes, the yellow spotted lizards. It's like, don't eat them, they're poisonous.
That's funny.
But yeah, and then the way they ended the show on her, where she's with this new group of people because she got captured by this random. I can't tell if she's on a different place on the continent or if she is on a completely different world.
She's on a different place on the continent.
Basically says, yeah, but she just basically says, "Call me Falca," and then ends there. And I'm like, well, it's gonna be a whole season of her not with Gellert again. I'll tell you that much. It's not going to be them reuniting in episode 1 or 2. It's going to be them maybe reuniting in episode 8.
Yeah, and I heard that the books do kind of go that way too, where Ciri does end up on her own for a long period of time.
In the book, she ends up on her own a lot.
Yeah. I don't really want to see that. I know that they already deviated from the source material. I just want to see her with Geralt and get the family back together. I'd rather they fast forward through the parts.
Yeah.
I know Witcher fans will be upset by that, but I don't care. I just want to see them together sooner rather than later. Even if season 4 is the journey to find her. And now Yennefer's going to be separated from them too. Like Geralt and Jaskier are together, great, but now they're all separated again, which is extremely frustrating. Which maybe that's the point of season 3. We finally get a season of them all together to love them all so much and want to see them together so desperately. Season 4 is supposed to be like...
Do we see them all together? Or are they all together for episode 1 and then they split apart in episode 2 for a bullshit reason?
Okay, but we do get to see them pair up a lot. We get to see Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer all together for a while. We kind of see them in pairs of 2 and 3, but at least they're interacting with other people than just Ciri and Geralt the whole time, or Ciri and Yennefer the whole time. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't hate the season. I'm just a little disappointed because I feel like the quality has dropped significantly. I mean, when they reunite, first of all, they got the episode title wrong. They got the quote wrong in episode 7. I know it's because it's a play on words. The place is called In the Frying Pan, and it's titled Out of the Fire into the Frying Pan. But that's not the quote. God damn it.
It's a cute play on words.
It's not cute. It's wrong. Anyway.
Well, of course it's wrong. It's like called the Fire. Anyway, the Fire.
When they reunite,
the chandelier
I don't care.
Came down on Aretuza, they burned the place to the smithereens, and then the desert's called the Frying Pan. Out of the fire into the frying pan. Haha.
Stupid. Anyway. But when they reunite again, all 3 of them, after I believe the Wild Hunt makes their cameo appearance, there's just a random hard cut to Ciri and Geralt hugging. And to me, that just didn't sit well. In terms of just film quality, it was a very strange, just hard cut. And I immediately was just kind of like, ugh, that's so strange. And another thing that kind of made me go, that was weird, and made me scared for the season was Geralt's first fight with a bunch of bandits trying to get Ciri outside of one of their homes. And clearly the last guy, they slow it down a little bit, and you can clearly see that the blood splat is fake. And it's not even the fact that you can have CGI blood splats, but they don't even try to make it look like the guy got stabbed at all. So part of me was like, oh no, in terms of what the choreography was going to be like for the show, but it wasn't bad. I thought it was pretty decent.
I thought the choreography was great for most of it. It was really well done. I love how this show actually shows long takes, because Henry Cavill is legitimately good at sword fighting. So or at least stage fighting. I don't know about real combat, but he actually is doing his own stunts, so you can see these long takes of the actors actually fighting, and it's awesome. There's a real good energy to it and momentum in the scenes that you usually lack because you're trying to cut around actors who don't know what they're doing to their stunt doubles. They just get to show what's happening.
Well, I make fun of the toll booth ending a lot, but at least that fight was choreographed pretty well. I was like, okay, he gets at least one more decent fight before he leaves. But yeah, I thought the choreography was pretty good. I didn't hate it.
Yeah, just watching the behind the scenes though, that camera guy is a legend. You see him running around the entire 100%. Thing, just getting to see what that guy had to do. He had to be really in shape for it. And the choreographer is amazing too on this show. That's one thing I'll give this show. The fights are great. And the CGI is really good too. This is one of the few things, like usually I'm disappointed in CGI, but the monsters still look good in this show. They're all... I also liked seeing the behind the scenes of how they had him fight the monsters. I thought it was really interesting how there's that one scene when he was fighting that flesh monster in the castle that's just the bodies of those girls.
Yeah, that was wild.
And the behind the scenes show that it was just a couple girls in green screen suits basically whacking Henry Cavill with pool noodles. And it gave him something physical to fight against. He wasn't just slashing his sword against the air. He was reacting to something real on set, which is awesome. And that's how they got it to look so good.
Yeah, I've seen a critique where there was a lack of monster hunting in this season, but also that wasn't the focus of the season. So I'm kind of impartial to it, but they still gave us decent amount of monster fights. There's only one that I could say was great, which was Geralt and Ciri on the boat.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I also saw Henry Cavill talk about it in that making of documentary, and he said that was choreographed in a way where Geralt was letting Ciri do most of the work in that battle, trying to let her use the skills he taught her. But he does say there were a couple moments specifically where the thing definitely would have landed a killing blow against Ciri, and Geralt subtly just blocks it or knocks it out of the way. Like what Geralt's doing in that battle, he's playing support, letting his pupil play out her skills, but making sure she doesn't die. Very subtle work there, but really well done. That was the highlight battle for sure.
I think just another thing that this show, I think just overall, it's trying to do so much at once. It's trying to give so many different side plots. And yes, they all have the same goal. They want Ciri because of her power and yada, yada, yada. She is the chosen one. But for me, it was really confusing for this season. I don't know if it's because I hadn't watched the other seasons in a while.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, this king wants Ciri. These two mages want Ciri. The whole conclave of mages want Ciri. Geralt and Yennefer are running away with Ciri. 5 other people want Ciri. And you're just like, okay. Like, I get it. Like, Ciri is important. But to keep up with all these people's names and all their plots and how they want to get them. And to me, they're trying to do that Game of Thrones level type of storytelling without really setting up, well, it's kind of tough to say, but just really having the audience care about most of these side plots. Like there's the Elven side plot and their whole population of they're dying off and they're trying to fight just for survival. But every time they bring them up in each season, they're thrown away for like 3 more episodes. You don't see them again. And then they randomly show up in the big final battle. It's just weird.
Yeah. I thought the most potential for the Alvin story this year was Robbie Amell as Gallatin, and then they just kill him off, which was shocking. I thought like him and Keir had a good relationship, and then they just
I thought they were gonna kiss.
Well, maybe
they were queer baiting so bad.
I thought Keir was a pretty big standout this year because I liked seeing him come back from his lowest point, get some redemption with his boss. He had to kill one of his best friends, the elf. He was manipulating everybody the whole time. And when Ciri finally got a revenge against him, he's like, hey, I'm actually sorry and on your side. And I basically did all this just to tell you I'm sorry and my life is in your hands now. I'm in your service, which was an interesting twist. It kind of plays on your Ciri's expectations of him as well as this, is just henchman for Amir who doesn't really have his own ploy in mind. He's just a military guy. What's he gonna do?
That scene played out very weird though, where I was into it, where it was like my life's in your hands now, and so just like please kill me, let it be done with. And I was like, Ciri, kill him. And then these random bandits show up, and then he goes, I'll find you later. It's just basically like just kill me later. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
well, no, what that was Nilfgaardian soldiers who showed up, and he ran over to hold them off.
Was it?
Ciri escaped. Yeah.
It didn't look like Nilfgaardian soldiers. It looked like a bunch of random bandits.
Well, Nilfgaard was attacking Aretuza at the time. It was
they weren't in the armor though. So to me, it just looked like random people.
They were on Aretuza.
Yeah, but there was two different attacks. So there was the Nilfgaards who were with the elves, but then there was also, before they attacked, there was the uprising with the Rodanians or whatever. Yeah, with those people too. So they had their own people as well.
The Rodanian soldiers were there too.
Which I like that twist. I like that there was a bunch of people trying to take over the Conclave and the reason I like this story element was because there wasn't that much going on. There was, the Rodanians want to take over the Conclave because they feel the mages are failing them, and especially with Ciri, they want to use Ciri as a pawn, but sort of protect her. The Nilfgaardians come in, they fucking hate magic. They want to destroy it. They don't like mages whatsoever, so they come in to destroy it, and then this insane battle goes on.
Epic.
Yeah. So for me, I was willing to wait a little bit to see that battle. Because it did end in an epic way. It was a highlight of the season for sure.
All the mages get slaughtered.
Yeah, a bunch of them do, except of course the main characters we've known since season 1. But hey, that's TV. The Filgefort's fight was well choreographed with him and Geralt. I liked Filgefort's sort of story throughout the series because he's always been a bit shady, especially from season 1 when he just randomly kills an injured mage at the end of a battle. And then I don't remember what happens in season 2, but I think he does something shady again.
Right. And nobody trusts him except Tisea. But her word counts for more than anybody else's, so... Mm-hmm. Like, well, Vilgefortz is a little bit creepy, but I trust him. Okay, good enough for me.
Okay. And then, what else happens in that episode? A lot happens. Oh, that was another... It was weird. I was like, I had a gripe with part 1, but then they fixed it in part 2, where the fire mage...
Rience,
they had him in episode 1. Geralt breaks his hands, and instead of just murdering him right there, just fucks off in the portal. And the whole, I guess, reason for that is because Yennefer was in trouble. But, it doesn't take that long to snap a man's neck if you're a Witcher, I would assume. But
then, a sword, he could just cut his head off like he did later in the season. I thought it was so funny that he just, Rience shows up to Ciri like this badass threat. He's like, I don't work for anybody. I'm going to take you. And then Geralt just comes up behind him.
I thought it was a really cool moment because... Yennefer throws the sword past him, and then Geralt catches it, and then cuts his head off. I was like, oh, okay. Didn't expect that. That was cool. Yeah.
I thought that character outlived his welcome anyway.
Oh, for sure.
He's been a consistent threat since season 1. It's like, okay, just get rid of this guy.
Was he?
So I didn't even
he was
mind seeing
around
him
for a
just
while.
beheaded unceremoniously. I'm like, okay.
Mhm. Yeah, he was just kind of an annoyance. And then the same, I think in the same episode, in the same episode, they got rid of his, like, mage partner, the girl who can't speak.
Lydia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what would we do with her? Just murder her. I was like, thank you, Yennefer. Yes. Like,
Yeah, Yennefer killed her
that's
too.
what you should do with characters who are bad. And I'm like, well, morally gray areas. Like, no. How about you murder the people who try to kill you?
That episode was basically, our cast is a little big. Let's clear house here.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the rest of the season was let's kill a few more people.
Yeah.
Like,
And the rest of the season was actors being like, hey, Henry's leaving. That's not a good sign. So I'm going to.
Yeah. I thought the most shocking one was Tisea committing suicide after the battle, and then basically just hands leadership off to Yennefer. Like, well, I've done all I can. I've lost the will to live. The person I trusted most betrayed me, and everything I've worked my whole life to build has been left to rubble around me. I tapped into some dark magics. I'm feeling awful all around, and I just don't want to live anymore. But she kind of gives Yen just enough hope to keep going on, and then shocks her with that suicide. And me too. I didn't I thought that, like, yeah, she was clearly depressed, but I didn't think she'd go that far. And Yen didn't either.
Yeah, it's weird. Because to me, it didn't feel the way it was story structured. And it is in the books. I just looked it up. She does take her life after the coup. But to me, I just was like, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy that she was in that state of mind. Just because right before it happens, she's looking over battle plans or like battle reports that happen throughout the continent. And when you're in that state of mind, you try to distract yourself. But to me, there wasn't really a setup of, hey, this woman is in turmoil. I know she's hurt, but the reason she's hurt is because she was lightning bolting people for like 30 minutes straight and it changed her entire hair color. But to me, I never saw her be like emotionally distraught.
I didn't see it in a way some actors overact and, I'm going to break down crying and make a huge show of how sorry for myself I'm feeling and I'm just in this really broken place. To me, what's the actress's name? Miana Burning. What she did in the next episode was way more subtle. Everyone thinks she's okay because she basically says nothing. But you look in her eyes, it's just dead. This is clearly a woman who's lost the will to live. She barely speaks up anymore. She used to be this super confident figure, a real leader. Now she basically says nothing and is just a shell of her former self, existing in the background, kind of just being dragged along by Yennefer and the other mages at this point because they're loyal to her. Of course, we're going to bring Tisea along, but she's not invested anymore. Even when she's looking over those battle plans, I think it's only because Yennefer was in the room with her. I don't think she was really
walked in. She walked in and she was looking him over. That's why I was like, that's weird.
Yeah. It's just everything about her after that moment was so half-hearted. I didn't expect a suicide, but it also didn't shock me either. But I thought, and that felt like a real tragedy to me, because throughout this season, I'd really started growing on Tisea. I really started liking that character even more. And, she's kind of Yennefer's mother figure, and now that Yennefer's being a mother to Ciri, she needs a little more motherly guidance herself. So it is, once again, playing on this theme of family dynamics, so prevalent throughout the season. And to see her go, I felt that loss as a watcher, and also my empathy for Yen went really strongly as well, because I know how strongly she felt that too. And, that made me really sad as well. But what I liked about it also after the fact is when she tells Geralt about it, and Yennefer admits that she's angry at Tisea for killing herself for seemingly no reason. It's like, well, there was so much more to do. The survivors, needed her guidance and wisdom, and she let us down. She let her own grief consume her and killed herself, leaving the rest of us to fend for ourselves. And yeah, maybe in her mind, she said, well, I raised you all to be self-sufficient, and I know you can handle this without me. But they still feel like they can't, and they feel like she abandoned them now. And so it's a very complex situation, and I totally got where Yen was coming from. She felt abandoned, but also understood at the same time, and she just had this conflict of emotions. It's very compelling drama, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Yen's reaction to it was better than most. I just didn't feel like it was earned. Not her reaction, but the actual setup for the suicide itself. I don't know. It felt really off to me. It didn't, and it wasn't. I don't even want to, because it is in the books. It wasn't done for shock factor's sake. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen. I don't even know what I would like to have seen, but maybe just
some better execution of the same thing on paper.
Yeah, I didn't need to see like the actress break down crying, but just maybe her having like a moment to herself, just like contemplating the fuck happened. I don't know, but there's also a lot of shit we got to get through.
Yeah. So, well, it's like I was saying with her. To me, pivoting to a slightly different
Suicide by narration is what happened.
Right. Pivoting slightly to what I was saying before, I think The Witcher Season 3 is mostly about the bonds of non-blood family. You have Geralt, Ciri, and Yen as a family, Tisea acting as Yen's mother figure. I think it's also a metaphor that the Brotherhood is trying to reunite itself in the wake of a greater threat, Brotherhood, family as well. You also get a lot of family things between the King of Redania and Radovid, that brother kind of dynamic as well. Dijkstra and Philippa, their bond is also strengthened throughout this season as well. It's about the bonds of non-blood family and what they're all... and Emir is trying to get Ciri, his daughter, back. It's about what the lengths they're all willing to go to for their relations and each other, and who they're willing to fight for that. And I think that's what I took away from this season. And I thought they executed those themes pretty well, if that's what they were going for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Redania stuff is very interesting in terms of just like their whole story plot, because they are one of the main northern cities still standing, or kingdoms still standing, against the Nilfgaardians.
Yep.
And that whole dynamic between the brother and Radovid is really interesting. Just to kind of see the origins of that, because yes, I'm playing Witcher 3 right now, and spoilers for the end of the season, but Radovid becomes king, and seeing his start and then to where he is now is very interesting. He's a lot more colder in the game, and a lot more sort of seems like he's off his rocker. Well, without trying to give too much away. Well, season 3, he's very much this sort of laid back kind of guy. He has his own spy network, but he doesn't try to fuck over people.
But it's all an act, really. He's the king's younger brother who nobody really thinks a lot of. He kind of plays the public drunk and playboy just so everyone underestimates him and doesn't see him as a threat. But Philippa and Dijkstra and Jaskier all kind of see beyond his mask, and they're like, no, you got a lot more potential than you're letting on. I think you need to embrace that a little bit more and get out of your brother's shadow. And that's why it was fun. Like I love how Philippa totally doubted him at the start too. Yeah. She thought he was exactly what he portrayed himself to be, but it was her in the end who got the king's throat sliced and put him in as king, because she knew he could do the job better than his brother. So she came around on him a lot by the end after seeing what he could do this season. So I liked how that arc played out.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm just, again, it's so hard remembering all these names.
Yeah.
From the show, just because so much is happening. But Dijkstra and Philippa, their relationship with Radovid, the setup for it is interesting because there's a whole arc with both of them in the game that I don't want to spoil, that I haven't even finished yet, but now I understand the hatred that Radovid has for Philippa. And I guess Dijkstra, and I guess all three of them have for each other, except I don't know yet the connection between Dijkstra and Philippa. I should bring up Triss, though.
Yeah.
Because
Triss,
it's weird. She is an integral part to The Witcher 3, as she is the one of two choices you have in that game for a love interest. Yeah. And it's so strange because the way it works is events happened after the books, and that's where the game, or during the books, and then after that is when the games are set. And basically, the only thing I will say, Geralt loses his memory, yada, 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 and then ends up with Triss. And a huge critique of the character of Triss is that she even admits it in the third game, that she took advantage of Geralt in that state because she, was in love with him.
All right.
And in the books, she's not really a character in terms of, she's not a potential love interest in the books at all. Yeah, she has that impression this sort of
from the show either.
Yeah, she is sort of the side character for the mages. And a lot of people took critique with that from the show because there's the video game fans going for it. But if you're going for like a 1-for-1 adaptation, which of course the show's not doing, but is taking its liberties with it, they're kind of sticking with the books. But a part of me is also like, okay, Triss is this very sweet, kind of innocent younger mage who in the game would stop at nothing to protect Ciri from the Wild Hunt and from anybody. But in the show, I think the problem happened in more so season 2, where she's like, we can't trust Ciri. She's a danger. She needs to be, at one point, I think she says she needs to be silenced or killed. And everybody was pissed about that. So I think that's a change people were pissed about. But even in this season, she's kind of set aside. So there's that whole, fans spewing against each other. Who do you choose, Yennefer or Triss? And both of them kind of suck, but are both kind of awesome at the same time. So that's why it's a tough choice.
See, once again, it's kind of funny about The Witcher, right? Because there's a lot of people who got their start on this with the books. So they see the games as blasphemy, and they see the show as a terrible adaptation. Then there's a huge chunk of people, basically everybody I know, got sucked onto The Witcher through the video game. They don't know what happened in the books, and they watch the show, but they're mad at the show because it wasn't like the game. And then there's people like me who just came on with the show, knowing nothing about the game or the books. And I don't know what's right. My first instinct is to say, it's just like what you want to like, okay? Don't try to compare it to each other. They're different universes. There's no internal consistency. The show doesn't have to be like the books or the game. The game doesn't have to be like the books. They're all doing their own thing. And
it's tough. Yeah, I had to make a romance option last night, and it was tough.
Oh, boy.
RPGs, man. I didn't pick anybody. I didn't pick someone.
Oh. Okay.
Let's just say that.
Okay, got it.
Because there's it's really funny. If you try to romance both of them, they'll basically fuck you over, and you end up with nobody, which is, I think, is really awesome. It's a funny cutscene that I don't want to spoil for people, but...
So speaking of Triss, what did you think of her and Istrid this year? They did their investigation into that book, which something. Triss was looking into...
It was like, who cares? It was 3 scenes. I don't care.
I was more interested in, like, the missing girls plot line was kind of interesting as well. And I like how they kind of did a double twist on it. Oh, it was Stregobor. Oh, actually, it was Vilgefortz framing Stregobor. So there was layers on that one. It ended up kind of interesting. And it was also all the girls that were stolen, had elven blood and looked like Ciri, and were in that castle. So that kind of ended up okay, but didn't really have a payoff. Whereas I liked Istrid's storyline I love how he's a guy who's consumed by history and he's always looking for these artifacts and knows everything about the backstory of this world. So I like his character for that. He's really the one who tells us more about the lore than anybody. Mm-hmm. He's like the exposition dumper, and
whenever we need lore about like what happened in the continent or before the continent. Excuse me, something's going on with my voice. He's usually the guy to go to, and I like that actor. I also like his look this season. He's grown out a beard. He's got a bit of a longer hair.
Looks good.
And we didn't mention it, but the 5th episode where they're doing the whole scheme to try to catch Stragobor, I think that was well done. Where they show,
just follow my lead. You've been trying to get with Yennefer all night. Mm-hmm. Well, so
at first I was watching that, and my reaction was just like, "We're doing this," but then very quickly they do a sort of a jump back in time to be like, it was a scheme for the beginning, and I like that episode. I like how they did different points of time, and then later on they show those conversations later. I thought it was probably a hard episode to write and a hard episode to edit.
Yeah.
But I think they pulled it off really well.
That episode could have been really boring if they just played it scene by scene, because the entire thing was set at this ball.
Yeah.
So doing it non-chronologically, very interesting way to do it. I liked it as an editing challenge, and I think they pulled it off decently.
It gave it a little bit of life for season 3. I thought, it was done pretty well. I thought the costumes were pretty good. Costumes.
Oh yeah. The costumes were the best part about that. One of the best parts about that episode, getting all the fancy dresses and everything.
I like we get back to Geralt being sassy, as he usually is. He's a bit of a sassy bloke.
And Yennefer's like, you have to talk to people, you have to dance, you have to
stop eating.
You got to pretend to be friendly, at least.
That one witch who like tries to seduce her
Sabrina
through like a mind trick is hilarious, and he's just like, I think Yennefer looks lovely this evening, trying not to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best thing about season 3 is that this is the point in the show where everybody has their greatest failures of the series. It breaks them all down as human beings and sets them up for redemption in season 4. Like Geralt loses Ciri, gets his back broken. Yennefer's mother figure kills herself, and now she's got to be a mother figure herself and rebuild the entire conclave of mages. Cahir was at his very bottom of the barrel, and now he's on the run again. Fringilla was basically just made as the wine taster, a complete drunk, and she had to pick herself up as well. Francesca, she hit her bottom as well. Her brother died, her baby got killed last season, her lover also got killed. She's all alone in the world now.
That was another thing I didn't like. Why the fuck would Fringilla be like, hey, by the way, I killed your baby? Why? What, you stupid.
Yeah.
I like during that whole fight though, not Fringilla, Francesca, she has her own Carrie moment. They do like a little reference to her. I was like, that's cool. The blood effect was insane. I was like, damn. Good job, makeup team.
Dijkstra and Philippa, they hit their lows as well. Like everybody in this season hit their rock bottom at some point, emotionally or physically. And it sets everybody up for a really good season 4. And that's the thing about season 3, is that if you can accept it as a setup season, I think it'll look better in hindsight. If season 4 knocks all its setup out of the park, season 3 will look like, oh, okay, well, I wouldn't have had this emotional connection if it wasn't for what they built up in season 3. But having watched season 3 through, it's a little unsatisfying because it does feel all like setup. So I think how I feel about season 3, I think it's fine. It's worth a watch. I like it. But it very much depends on how season 4 sticks the landing or not.
Yeah. It's a very Force Awakens situation.
Exactly. And that Force Awakens
worked out great.
Yeah, add a follow-up, which ruined Force Awakens for me. I hope Witcher Season 3 has a follow-up, which makes me appreciate it more. It can go either way at this point.
Let's address the Liam Hemsworth thing. I don't think it was a bad choice. Whoever
Totally
they
fine.
would have chosen would have been met with criticism anyway. I think Liam Hemsworth is a decent actor, and I honestly don't think he's been given a real chance to take on anything. Yes, he was brought up in the Hunger Games franchise, but again, he's Gale, so he's kind of set aside to it as the character he is. He's done a bunch of, I think, romantic comedies or just romantic movies in general, and the word is not excited. I'm interested to see what he does with it, and I've heard from sources. That makes me sound like I have an inside scoop, but that he's already training to look like Geralt in terms of physicality, and he's taking the role very seriously because he knows it's massive shoes to fill. But yeah,
I'm sure he'll be fine. And I hope Geralt gets more to do with him next season, because I feel like Geralt took a bit of a backseat this year. I feel like he was more reserved than even Geralt usually is. He's given fewer standout moments. I do think he's still the moral center of the show. He's the only one who consistently is like, okay, can we just call out that you're all pieces of crap here?
Mm-hmm.
He's still that guy. But the reason I don't care as much as some other people do is because in my mind, he's not really the protagonist anymore. It's Ciri's story. And if you're looking back from season 1, it was always Ciri's story. Geralt's just kind of the biggest badass who sets it all going forward. Like, him and Yen are the parental figures for Ciri to live up to her full potential. And now that Ciri is an adult and she's had some training, she can take over as lead. And that's part of why I don't really care Henry Cavill's leaving, because Geralt's not the center point anymore. He's just the moral pillar of the show, but it's Ciri's story. So going forward, Geralt will have a big part to play, but, it's kind of like in The Mandalorian, and I know you hated it, but Din Djarin's not the protagonist of that show anymore. And a lot of people hated that, you included. I didn't care. I thought they transitioned out of him okay. He's there, he's still a big part of it, but it's not his story anymore. So I know that'll ruffle a lot of feathers, but it's Ciri's story now. It is what it is. It's not Geralt's story. So I think Liam Hemsworth won't be as jarring as people think.
It's an interesting take. I'm just saying with the recast, they needed an actor to play a father figure to an adoptive daughter. They should have just casted Pedro Pascal again.
That would have been fantastic.
Just get the third one out of the way.
That would have been so good.
I bet he would have done a good job too. Might be a little small, but anyway.
Look. Another example for why I think Ciri is the main character to me.
No, she is. No, I agree with you on that point. Yeah.
She's the balance between all walks of life on this show. She's the balance between humans and elves, humans and witchers, the mages and non-mages, royalty and commoners. She's done all walks of life. And that's why everyone's after her for their own ends, because she represents a little bit of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. I think it works better here with the main character taking a back seat, because it's always been from the start about Ciri. It's always been about Ciri from this point. Yeah. Where no, I'm not going to bring up Mandalorian. But it's always been about them. Transition. It's always been about destiny. It's about their fate together. And this first 3 seasons, it's all been about 3 of them running from destiny. And season 3, they were like, our destiny is to be aligned with each other and be a family. It's not the real destiny. The destiny is Ciri's to bring the continent together because she is this great elven power or
destroy everything. That was also
or destroy
possible.
Everything, which would be interesting.
She leaned into her dark side at the end here.
Yeah. And it does suck that I know how everything ends because of the games. It just flat out tells you what happens at the end of the books.
Oh, yeah.
But another kind of gripe I have with this is that they did a cliffhanger with the Wild Hunt in season 2. It's a small nitpick. And then they just make a cameo in season 3, which was not the point for them to be the main villain in season 3. But also, if you're not going to use them, don't show them at all.
Yeah, I just wish they acknowledged it a little bit more, or acknowledged their absence, or people were more worried, like, this thing is still in the background, right? Nobody cares?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Like, if they showed up... No, I don't know if that works in the context of the book. I actually don't care. If they showed up during the coup at Aretusa, that would have been insane. But also probably would have been way too much to go on. But who knows? Who knows when they actually show up? Who knows when it works out?
Yeah.
I would be interested to see what happens. I feel like because they casted they had casted Liam Hemsworth. They've already signed on. They're going to probably do at least the season 4, and then in terms of how streaming works and ratings work, who knows? Who knows what happens?
See, there was a point in this before season 3 came out, and I heard Henry Cavill wasn't going to be in it anymore. Henry Cavill was my main draw going into this show. And I kind of convinced myself, you know what? I'll watch season 3 because that's the last one of him, but I don't think I care about this show enough to go into a season 4. But having watched season 3, now I'm reminded that the show has a really good supporting cast. And season 3 made me care about the other characters and what's going on enough that I think the show can survive without Cavill. Even though he's still the highlight of it, he's the strongest performer in it, I like the other characters enough. Like, as long as we have Jaskier, Ciri, and Yennefer still around, I'm like, you know what? You got 3 out of the core 4, and Liam Hemsworth's probably not going to suck. I think this show can survive, and I'm actually interested enough to keep going. I didn't think I would be going into season 3, but I actually will watch season 4. I have some hope for it. And I also want to talk about Jaskier a little bit, because I was nearly convinced they weren't going to give us a new song from him, and I was very disappointed until the very end when we got Ride Witcher Ride, which I really enjoy. We got another one. Joey Batty's very talented. His storyline with Radovid this year was okay.
Yeah. I don't know in terms of context of lore if that's an actual thing or not, but
yeah,
I don't think it is. I kind of feels add on a little bit.
I just thought it was interesting, that one scene when like Jaskier was with one of his mistresses, and it's like, oh, I've seen this look on you. You've had dalliances before, but you've got a crush. This is weird for you. And he's like, what? What? No, I don't care about people that way.
It's really funny. And not to say, his bisexuality is in the games and in the books as well, but it's just funny. It
didn't shock me.
Yeah, it didn't shock me. You were trying to find his name's Dandelion in the books and games, but it's Jaskier. You're trying to find him, and the way you try and find him is you go to all his mistresses in this one town to see if they know where he is. And there's like 8. So
that's good.
He's known to be a bit of a player, but yeah, he's got a bit of a crush with Radovid. So I'm interested to see, just because I've been playing the game, how his arc from... Is there a helicopter outside my house? Anyway, I don't know if you can hear that. But it's going to be interesting to see how he goes from this kind of behind-the-scenes type guy, sort of, he's got a heart on him still. He wears his heart on his sleeve a little bit, to just where he is now, in terms of in context for me. But yeah, season 4, I'm interested in. I'm not overly hyped with it, just because of how season 3 left me. But yeah, it's definitely the worst of the 3 that have been released for me.
Yeah,
in terms of
but
quality.
Like I said, I think it'll how we feel about it will depend a lot on how season 4 does with what this sets up.
Mm-hmm.
it's the weakest now, but it could be seen as a good building block if you take season 3 and 4 together.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. But as it stands right now, yeah, little weak, little disappointing. I still say it's worth a watch, though. It entertained me a lot more than other shows that have come out recently.
I thought it was okay.
I thought it was a little disappointing. But I also wondered if that was part of the point. I'm like, well, is he? Yeah. Are the legends
He's mostly a
behind-the-scenes
guy.
Yeah.
I think. He's mostly behind. But I liked how he seemed very threatening in each scene.
Yeah. Well, he always had the upper hand. Even if he didn't seem like it, he did.
Yeah.
But
that ending where it was like, oh, here's this series back with Ymir, and then it's revealed that it's not her. I was like, knew it. It's not because of the desert, but I was like, I knew they weren't going to do this right away. And a part of me was like, do you not recognize your own daughter? But then I realized it's like the 1200s. So,
well, he hasn't really have like she was a baby.
Yeah, exactly. So you wouldn't know. But I wondered how. I gotta go back and look at it because that is the same girl who was possessed by the witch or whatever that Geralt found and was trying to free. Girl? It was the exact same girl.
Oh.
So I always wondered, like, how did she get free? How is she here now? Whatever. It doesn't matter.
I guess Vilgefortz found her at some point.
I guess. Oh, no, yeah, because Vilgefortz was okay, that makes sense. Because Vilgefortz was...
It was his idea.
Trying to make... Yeah.
Okay, well, that's our thoughts on The Witcher Season 3.
Yeah. Bit disappointing. It is a setup season. Take it with a grain of salt. Rest in peace, Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill's
he's going to another...
Yeah.
He's going to another franchise which he loves, and I'm sure they will give him what he wants. I don't know. Warhammer is another one where we're both kind of like, we don't know much about it, but we know there's just too much about it.
Yeah.
There's like so much lore that you can't really get into it, but...
I hope he finds success with that.
Mm-hmm. If not, hey, just hire him as Superman again.
Where can we find you?
Just release the cut scene from The Flash, please. Anyway, you can find me at Ryan Walker Official on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram.
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at ThoughtPlay Media. Also, check out the Close Up with Ryan and Joe Facebook page for latest updates on the show. If you listen to us in audio, check out our YouTube channel. And if you're on YouTube, find us anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. We hope to see you on the next Close Up with Ryan and Joe. Till next time.
Take care. It looks like rain.